Now we're going to work through our glass paper as well. We can do this while it's on the lathe. This does help to save quite a lot of time and give us slightly better results. We're going to pop the tool rest out of the way. We would make sure the extraction, again, is nice and close in. I haven't done that in the video because it becomes really difficult to see what's happening. We're going to fold it into strips because what we want to do is hold it at either end of the strip so that we're not actually putting our hands too close to the spinning wood. Now, it does heat up quickly, so it's quite important to keep it moving. If the glass paper overheats, it can scorch, which can then transfer marks onto your wood. But similarly, you can end up kind of burning your fingertips, which isn't a pleasant thing to happen. We want to keep that glass paper moving the whole time, and again, we're just going to go over the whole thing, making sure we're getting into all the nooks and crannies and into the edges, taking off the pencil marks, clearing off the tool marks, making sure that the finish on this is as good as possible. We're going to move on to the next grade of glass paper, going up to medium. As you can see, same procedure. The dust that's going to be coming off at this stage is going to be a bit finer. So again, the extraction is really important, and your dust mask is going to be really important. You will kind of visually start to see a difference in the colour. Once you get down to these finer grades, you will notice it looking a lot more smooth and even while it's spinning. Keep moving on to fresh paper fairly regularly because it does get gummed up quite quick. Once you get onto the fine paper, again, you'll find that it's just a case of going through the same steps you would on any other piece of woodwork. By the time you get to the fine paper, the finish will be a lot nicer, it will feel a lot smoother to the touch, and obviously visually it will be a lot tidier as well. Again, fully finishing your work is worth quite a lot of marks in an SQA assessment, so it is worth spending the time to get this bit right. At this point, it's a good opportunity to check for anything that still needs going over again. You can do a little touch-up sanding at this stage. Similarly, you can apply a finish while it's on the lathe, be that oil or wax or whatever finish you want to be working with. Obviously, you have to do it carefully. You need to make sure it's spinning quite slowly, but wax is a good example because the friction from the lathe spinning heats up the wax and helps to buff it while you're actually turning it on the lathe. So in this example, we'll just pop some wax on to show you how this is going to look, and you can kind of see that the colour changes a little bit. But as we know, a finish is about the aesthetics, it's also about protecting the wood that you're working on. Now finally, we are going to take that waste off the edges, which means we need to go over to our parting tool, so we've got nice sharp edges on the piece of wood that we're keeping. Again, like I'm saying, the extraction there, I'm just going to move it out of the way in the video so you can see what's happening. As remember, our first 10 and last 10 mils are always going to be waste, but this is the last point you need to really, if you've sanded off the marks and you're a bit unsure about it, you can pop the pencil marks back on to make sure your linear dimensions, your edging is exactly the right, so you got your piece of wood the right length. But ultimately, we're just going to thin out the waste at the edges so that we can cut through it effectively. Now, if you are doing multiple components on one spindle, this becomes quite important as well because you really want to make sure you are getting everything to the right length, and you're going to make it as easy for yourself as possible to cut the sections down, to part it off. Taking your spindle off the lathe is as simple as reversing the procedure for putting it on. Unlock the handle and the tailstock, just slacken off that piston so you can take it back out. These waste sections at the end, again, we'll just be cutting these off using a saw on the bench. Other than that, you just need to make sure that you're leaving the machine as you'd expect to find it. Your classic post-use checks: is it safe, is it secure, is it powered down, is it clean? At the moment, obviously, with the COVID situation, we want to make sure we're disinfecting fully. So just think about any touch points, including the visor, any areas that you might have touched before the next person uses the machine. So you're just being as safe as possible. And tidy and store your chisels effectively so that they are where they're supposed to be.